Hello.
Hi. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's wonderful. How's your day
Awesome.
going?
Pretty good. Yeah, thanks for meeting me, at 10 p.m. Or are you on West Coast or what's your
Yeah,
time
it's
zone?
7 here. So
Okay.
you're on the East Coast?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so it's 10
Cool.
p.m. out here.
Yeah. So before starting, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Definitely, yeah. I'm a junior in computer science, so I have one more summer and then I graduate. Um, I've had some experience interning in cybersecurity and some experience interning in infrastructure engineering.
Yep.
Um, right now, my focus is developing my data analytics skills through Python. And yeah, I'm excited to be doing this, the practice interview in this program.
Awesome. So what's your motivation for doing this?
Yeah, I think sometimes there's like some unnecessary kind of like worry or anxiety over these interviews. And I
Yeah.
think the more I've done these a couple times or a few times here, and then just in real life interviews, and the more I've gone through them, just like anything else, you start getting more comfortable with them. It's a little bit easier to kind of recognize patterns in the problems. So yeah, I just like the practice, and I feel like I'm getting a lot more comfortable with it, or I'm starting to. So this is overall why I'm doing it.
All right. Awesome. So yeah, a little bit about me. So I'm Nelson. I currently work at Square, where I've been
Uh-huh.
for 3.5 years. Been in the Bay Area for about 6 years. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm sort of doing this because in general, I enjoy doing interviews, and it's nice to be able to help others.
Definitely. Square's a big name right now, so that's really cool. It's really interesting. How do you like it there?
It's pretty great. So I worked most of those 3.5 years have been on a point of sale, but I recently on a team called Point of Sale that deals with apps that you might be familiar with for taking credit card payments.
Right.
But recently I moved over to the Caviar team, which is like food delivery. So it's pretty good.
Gotcha. Awesome.
So yeah, let me paste in a question
Cool.
here. We can get started. Sleep
Definitely.
Sort of Horrible Algorithm. Read through it. Let me know what you think.
Okay. Give it some integers. Solving collection one total that running. Hit issue in sort order. Uh, cool. What um what do you mean when you say sleep for the integers value? Um,
Uh, so
so
sleep as in like whatever sleep method your desired programming language has. So basically like wait for that amount inside of that thread.
Mhm. Wait until you get the integers value.
No, no. So for example, if we had, let's say, 312, so we
Hmm.
would create a new thread for each one of them, right? So here's one thread, here's another one, here's another one.
Hmm.
So one of them would be sleeping for 3, and sleep for 1, sleep for 2. And
Hmm.
so basically it's like for this amount of time it's not doing anything.
Right. Um, integers value. So I guess my question is like why are we running different threads? Um, and what's the purpose of sleeping for the integers value? I'm not exactly following.
So do you understand what the sleep would do?
No, no.
So if let's say that we start these 3 threads at the same time. So are you familiar with
Right.
thread?
Yeah, like different there can be
Yeah,
multiple
exactly.
threads within a process, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that means that all 3 threads are running at the same time, or around the same time. And so let's
Hmm.
say, so when we say this, it's like, so this thread is gonna pause for 3 seconds, This one's gonna pause for
Mhm.
1 second. This one's gonna pause for two,
Mhm.
and then they all like push that number into a result somewhere.
Mm.
And so, given how long they last for, they sleep for, then which one's gonna wake up first?
Okay, cool. Cool. So because you're waiting for longer, then you'll have the ordered list. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha. So, um, mm, so I guess you help me explain, how they end up sorting. So the purpose is to implement this thread functionality. Um, let's see. One thing, so you said like I might have to leverage, like Google or Stack Overflow, et cetera, because I'm not necessarily like experienced or very familiar with implementing threads in Python.
Go ahead.
So let's see. Um, mm, thread, yeah. Um, wow. Sorry, I'm just looking up kind of primitives so I can start implementing full Python. So for this, like any other problem, we wouldn't be using like any libraries, right? This would all be like the standard Python library. There's no
Yep.
multi-processing libraries or anything like that.
No, Python should have a standard libraries that deal with threading.
Okay, cool. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. So I don't I mean I think I don't know how to approach this because I think this is going to be a difficult interview for me.
So what are
And
you?
I mean,
Where's the difficulty you're having?
kind of like, I mean, just to be completely honest, just kind of a lack of experience working with threads in Python. I haven't worked with threads since I worked with in C. I mean, that's not an excuse. It kind of gives me like feedback that um, I should look into like all kind of paths of the standard Python library
Well, I
and
would
expect
actually
a question like.
that you can't guarantee that you're not going to face something that you're not familiar with in an
Mm,
interview, and you should have a process for how you deal with that. So, for example, right now, what type of documentation are you searching for?
um, I'm in like the threading interface of Python.
Okay, and
Um,
so what about that is confusing, or are you having trouble grappling with?
yeah, like I'm trying to figure out how to kind of as a problem states like create a thread and then have that thread sleep.
Hmm.
Um, like I guess that's the first step. Like I don't even know. I can't even think about like pushing the result because um, yeah, like just like the whole
All right, so let's not get there then. Let's try creating threads. Let's start there. How would you
sure.
create a thread?
Yeah, I mean I'm being completely honest with you. Like um,
I mean, if you search for like Stack Overflow Python 3
oh, right.
create a thread, like that should give you an example, right?
Um, um, understanding the threading module. Let's see. Um,
Like at this point, you should be able to find just a code snippet that you can copy over and play with.
mhm. Yeah, a lot of so I'm looking a lot of the maybe I'm not searching carefully, but a lot of the thread things that pop up are tied to like libraries like multi-threading or multi-processing. So I'm trying to look at posts that don't um leverage those libraries right now.
Oh, so right
Thread
now,
Python.
when I search for Stack Overflow Python 3 create a thread, the very first
Oh,
thing just uses the standard library. It's not using anything out of it. So the example that I found was how do you do multi-line comments here? Well, doesn't matter, I guess. Um, so something like that.
I see.
Uh, so doing this, you sort of get an idea of how to create a thread.
Mm, yeah. So it's kind of like this thread class, and then you have these methods start, join.
So if I give you a list of numbers, how would you create a thread for each one of them?
Right. Hmm.
So what are you thinking? What are you pondering?
Python 3. I'm just having a hard time with this. I'm not gonna. I feel like I don't know if it would be more productive to just kind of study threads, because it might. I don't know. For me, it kind of. I mean, this is kind of one of the difficult parts about like the coding interviews for me. If it's like something I'm very familiar with, it's a lot easier for me to kind of just jump off and um, kind of implement the algorithm and iterate through with it. But if it's a concept like this that's kind of foreign to me, it kind of stuns me, which is like I guess is what it's doing now. Um,
Yeah, and so I think what I'm trying to guide you through is how do you deal with problems where you're not familiar with. Like if someone asks you
right,
to implement a compiler, like where would you start? That type of thing. Because even let's say that you don't know how to create a thread, right? You do know how to iterate over a list, I imagine. And so you
right,
could
yeah,
always start by being like, well, like you would just share like, okay, I don't know much about threads, but I know that if I were implementing this, then I would have some sort of method that would take in the list here, for example.
mm-hmm.
And then inside this list, then how do you do list comprehension in Python? I forget.
Something like I'm typing, sorry, x for x in list where condition.
Yeah. So in this case, we won't have a condition, but like, yeah, you can say like for n uh, in numbers here, right? And then here you could have
Um,
another method that says like make thread and passes in the number. And like even if you don't know what make thread is gonna do, you're still showing that you have a ability to break down problems. So
mhm.
like at this point, I still don't know anything, right? So it's like somehow create a thread, and then what else? According to the description of the algorithm, then we also need a result somewhere.
Mhm.
So then instead of the thread, and so at this point, like at least you're breaking down the problem to the point where all you need to do is understand how to create a thread.
And plug that in. I see.
And so then you go to Stack Overflow and you like notice like, okay, so here apparently they're creating a thread this way. And so I see that it has like a threaded function and an arg, and like you need to dive into what that means, but at least like this way you're making progress instead of feeling like stunned and feeling like you don't have anywhere to go.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had a loss in connection, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my point here is just that you don't need to be intimately familiar with every single computer science term.
Mhm.
The interviewers will usually be more than happy to help you through that, but you do still need to show the ability to break down problems or to make some progress.
Right. Yeah. I'm really sorry. I kind of just hit me by surprise, and I did exactly what I feel like I shouldn't do in an actual interview. Right. I kind of just got lost in documentation and froze rather than um
Yeah,
at
and so
least
that's
trying.
why you're practicing. So I'm just giving you feedback now.
Thank you. Thank you.
No need to
So
apologize though. Like, you're doing the right thing by practicing this and getting used to. Like now you know what happens when you're faced with something you're not familiar with, and you can work on that.
right. Cool. Let's see. Make thread. So for like the if we're focusing on like the make thread function, is that where you like would you have a parameter there to see how long it would sleep, or would that all depend on? I guess
Uh,
it would
so
depend
so
on.
yeah, so N here is like amount to sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. Um, not sleep. Join. Okay, let's result for n numbers make thread. Um, so you know this is like the sleep for n step. This would be um So a question on threads. If I was writing a function and calling a function, could I create the function in a way to like return only after the thread had slept for some time? So kind of what I'm thinking is you have this make thread function, you start the thread, you join it, um, you sleep for n seconds, and then after those n seconds are over, below we had this in the description. It's like this result dot push, but I feel like
Yeah.
this function isn't pushing anything. It's actually just like returning that number after it sleeps for some time, and then it sleeps. Or we would do, maybe result dot push, never make thread and returned.
Yeah. So if you do it this way though, it's how would like the thing with threading is it needs to add the result at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the question that you're making. And
I see.
so it
Okay.
yeah. So if we continue this, so here in this thread we have this thread function, which is what does anything at all. And right now it's just taking a number. And so we're saying that here we want to sleep for n, and then we want to push this into somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have results, so we probably want to pass that in as well. And so here we put result, and we put here amount to sleep. And so if you run that,
We need
then
some.
the result here.
Also, why? Just a question on this line. 26. Why can't we
Yep.
assume numbers is already given us in the list?
Sorry, say that again.
Why can't we assume numbers is already in a list for us? Because we're doing the whole list comprehension, like n for n in numbers.
Well, sorry, it wasn't list comprehension. What I meant, I just wanted to loop through. So like for n in numbers, this is really what I wanted to do.
Oh, cool.
So if we run this now, I guess we need to actually run it. So let's just print sleep sort and pass in 312. Oh yeah, let's remove these things that we just had as samples. Do you know what's wrong here? Is it can you not pass a list like this?
Print sleep sort 321. Oh, it's in Python 3 they do this like weird thing where you have to have parens at before every.
Yeah, I'm way too used to. So here, and we're not passing results here, so whoop, we need to pass it there, and pass it in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then list object has an attribute push. Oh, so here in line 6, it's not push. What's the method for appending to a list?
Let's try append. I think it should be.
Okay. Okay, so looks like we printed in the same order. So if we, at this point, you would just start debugging, right? So like we can like put here print appending. You can do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. With a plus. Maybe I can't print that. Can you not just add numbers to strings?
I think it's percent might be.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
that's good. Close enough. So can you debug this from does this give you an idea of what's wrong?
Let's see. Let me take a look. Make thread and not to sleep. Okay. Well, like there's, I think it's a logical issue because the seconds thing would work if they were all starting at the same time, but because we're iterating through, we're not necessarily, starting them all at the same time. So, for example, yeah, like if the first one's going for 3 seconds and the second one, let's say, was going for 2 seconds and it starts a second later, that they would end at the same time. As an example, and that could be one of the issues here. So how would we account for that? End. Sleep. So sleep for n. It's almost like well, this is kind of a difficult question to kind of answer because it's not like you know how much time is delayed between each iteration, right? Like if we knew it was a second delay from each iteration, then we could just like delay the first value by n seconds, the second one by n-1, the third one by n-2, all the way till the end. So they would start at the same time, but we don't have the information, you know?
Yeah, but the fact that, so if you see it print, right, as it's printing, it's like printing one at a time, and we know that we want all of them to be running at the same time, right? So put another way, so it's, if you're measuring how long it's taking, like that took 3 seconds, that took 1 second, and then that took 2 seconds. So you can tell that the threads are not running in parallel. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So if knowing that, like, if the issue is how to make them run in parallel, what would you try?
I'm sure there's like a, let me see, maybe some sort of like wait method or thread. Let's see. So we want them to run in parallel. So kind of the question is, we're going to call them iteratively, but we want to find a way to have them run in parallel, right?
Yeah, so the idea is, so for example here, we'll make a thread one at a time, but we expect them to start around the same time. So basically, there should be a little overhead in actually creating the thread, such that each time we start it, we should be able to start all of them around the same time, even if each one takes a different amount of time to run.
Right. And you said there should be little overhead, or there should be a little overhead? I didn't understand that.
There should be little, as in like it shouldn't affect the amount that we're sleeping should be much larger than the amount of time it takes to create a thread.
Right. I'm thinking like I'm looking up synchronization methods for threads in Python. Let's see.
That's a good thing to search for.
right? I don't think there needs to be. We don't have to look at locks because there aren't shared resources. Synchronization between threads, events, event.wait, something like that. Yeah, I was thinking of kind of a wait flag, but wait until what? Okay, this is so I know I have to use the wait method. Now I have to figure out how to use it, or I have a kind of sense that I have to use the wait method. Kind of here like thread.wait, but the question is, how do I tie this? You know, because you kind of want like the first, maybe the first thing in the list to wait for the next thing to wait for the next thing after that until you reach the end. At which point there should be some sort of like signal.
Sorry,
right?
not sure I entirely understand what you're saying or what you're suggesting.
Right. So I'm suggesting we use because I quickly looked up like synchronization between threads, and there's this thing where like the thread might wait for an event to happen, or some flag to be set before it does anything. So I'm thinking, you know, the first thread before it executes and depends, it should wait until the second thread is created, and before the second thread executes or creates anything, it should also wait until the third thread is created, right?
The opposite, so right? We want them all. We don't want them waiting. We want them all to be running at the same time.
I see. I guess the reason I said wait is I'm thinking of wait is because like you're going to create the first thread. There's going to be some time between that and when you create the second thread. So my question is like, you know, should we be waiting?
Yeah, and I think the answer is no in this case. So like right now, put another way. So if we, so do you know what thread.join does?
Thread.join. No, I'll look it up.
Yeah, so this will block until the thread is done. And so that's the reason why everything's running sequentially now, because we call make a thread for each number, we start the thread, and then we wait for it to finish.
Okay.
So the problem is that we don't want to wait for it to finish. What we want is, or sorry, we don't want to wait for it to finish until all the threads are created, so that they're all sleeping at the same time. Does that make sense?
Right.
So knowing that, well, how would you change the code so that they're all running at the same time?
Yeah. So currently, like the second one's not even sleeping until the first one executes all the way, right? Is what's
Correct.
happening.
Yeah.
That's kind of naive. Okay. What just that was interesting. It returned empty right away, and then it printed the appending.
Yeah, so right now we're not even waiting for any thread to finish.
So when you remove the join, it kind of like lets the thread run, but it just returns the result from the last function. It like returns the result without I think, right? Because you see like the first empty brackets. So like
yes,
like when you run it normally, sleep store will wait to return until you print from threaded function until the threads execute because of that join. But then here the return value, the empty bracket, comes back right away and then the threads continue running. Is I think what I'm saying.
But if you notice also, these are in order, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost like um, thread.start. So it's almost like not exiting the make thread function until these threads, which are now in order, execute.
Yeah,
How do I do
so
that?
how can we wait here for all threads to finish? The question.
Right.
So what are some options that you can think of?
There. Like a condition is maybe a naive way I could think of it.
What?
Like setting a conditional, actually. Yeah, because
Oh,
the threads are going to be running.
right.
Okay.
So what would you
The
check?
threads are going to, yeah, like I'd have a condition here, right? Because the issue that I noticed in the terminal was like, it wasn't that the threads were no longer in order or anything like that. It's just that the threads were executing fast enough. Once the threads start running, like the function was returning before the list was appended. But after the function was returning that empty list, I feel like the threads were still appending it. We were just never realizing it because there was no output to the terminal. So if I have this
Mhm.
condition like if result uh, if result equals, that's kind of tricky. If say not equal n, hmm. Hmm. Let's see. When result equals. What is going on here? So, hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why that didn't work because um like I thought the yeah.
So yeah, this is a great check, but you're only checking it once, right?
Uh,
So like
oh,
here maybe is there such a thing as retry? No? Yeah. Yeah, or while, yep. Uh, but you don't want while,
uh,
or what are you gonna do? So is there an until? No. While. Yeah, so while it's not the same, right? It's when you want to
yeah.
do nothing.
Uh,
So like wait.
yeah. I think it
What
might
happens?
give us an error. I don't have anything there. Maybe maybe we just need to have something there like print, and I'll change this. But maybe I just want something. Uh, oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. That'll do it. Program halted for excessive output. That's great. So wait. So what happens if we run it? This is fail.
I think we could, yeah, because they want something in there.
I see. So what can we do that? But I don't know, just one. Oh, what's n here? Oh, we want line of numbers here, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah, that works.
cool. Cool. That's a neat trick. I didn't know line 22. You could just have like a one there to kind of like a
Well,
continue type of thing.
I mean, I think it just wants something to evaluate. And like
Mhm.
one is a statement in Python, like it just returns one.
Mhm. Gotcha. Cool. I'll write that one down.
But yeah,
Um,
what could have but yeah, what do you? I don't know what takeaways do you get from practicing this?
yeah, I think it's kind of a feeling I had to feel to kind of because I'd rather have this feeling in a practice than an actual one. But
Definitely.
these are the type of situations where like uh um I need to get more comfortable in. Yeah, for sure. Because like I said at the beginning, if it's something I'm a little bit more comfortable with, it's really easy to jump off and do it. But like uh maybe if it's some sort of like just getting familiar with whether it's standard libraries that I'm not completely familiar with, or if it's some sort of tree structure that I'm not familiar with, like practicing that beforehand, and getting some of those discomforts out. Uh, but
Yeah, and
also
so
just kind of
again,
getting used to it.
I want to emphasize that you definitely want to be, you still want to be studying, you still want to be practicing, but you still need
Hmm.
to have a plan if you're presented with something that you're not familiar with.
Right. Okay.
You can't just like throw your hands up in the air and be like, nope, sorry, you asked me about something I don't know, I'm stuck. And so no matter what programming problem you're faced with, you can always like break it down, even if there's one particular part that you don't know how to solve. You can break down the problem until you that's the only thing you're missing, and then you can try to solve that. Because I think if you had gone all this way to the point where you just didn't know what happened in make thread, then
Hmm.
at least at that point you can just focus on what would a make thread function look like instead of having to envision the entire program.
Right. I see. So like, would you suggest kind of in the beginning just focusing on purely like the logic, or at least I don't think I did a good job of that. I think I like instead of I could have just very easily like talked through the logic a little bit better with my interviewer with
Yeah,
you.
so almost think about it as writing pseudocode, right? So in
Yeah.
interviews, this has uh, served me well, which is like I'll read through the problem and I feel like there are two ways of approaching it. Either you look at the problem and you like think through the solution, or you just start typing code and like this is what it would look like, even if I don't know all the pieces inside of it, and then I can just focus on one piece at a time.
Right.
Um,
Cool.
so yeah, I feel like just writing the skeleton of the program can help you think through how to solve it, and it's a good way of dealing
Mhm.
with situations where you're not entirely sure of what the answer is from the beginning. And not only that, if you don't write anything, then it's hard for me as an interviewer to know exactly where to guide you. Whereas
Mhm.
if you had gone through and I knew that the make thread problem function is the thing that you're having trouble with, then it's a lot easier for me to give you hints in that case.
Right. Right. Cool. And like just in general, would you like I got feedback from another interviewer to kind of really know the standard library. Is that something you focus on, or would you just go back to kind of the plan idea of being able to have a plan for the
Sorry, say
discomfort or whatever you
that again. Is what do I focus on?
like? I got feedback from a previous interviewer to like really know the standard library like in and out. Would
Yeah.
you support that advice, or do you think like having that plan is more important than really knowing anything completely in and out?
I would say that you definitely get brownie points if you show that you're comfortable in your language of choice. And learning about the standard library is part of that. But I can tell you that for this particular problem, if someone doesn't know threading, I don't deduct points. Because for me, I'm getting signal because I'm also understanding how you look up documentation and how you can understand that and use it, right? So for me, it's very little. It tends to be less about knowing everything and more about just what your process is to get unstuck.
Okay. I see.
But again, learning more about the standard library will still help you. I just think that it's a little bit unfeasible to like really learn everything there is in the standard library, or at least it's at some point you start having diminishing returns.
Gotcha. Makes sense. And then like for this thread target, like you're instantiating a class, is this the common? Are these always the two common parameters? You have some sort of function and arguments to a function that kind of.
Are you asking about threading specifically, or?
Yeah, like lines 10, like the reason, like just why the class would take a threaded function. I guess I could study that on my own, but that just seems kind of interesting. That like I'm wondering, are there like instead of sleep, are there like other parameters or other functions that you would have in that threaded function? I'm just curious.
Oh, threaded function can be anything. Like it can be foo, and it can take as many parameters as you want.
Okay, but
is that what you're asking?
Like is the purpose is like the purpose of that threaded function to kind of like define some behavior for the thread? Like it's gonna sleep or it's gonna.
The purpose of it is so the thread is just gonna run in a separate thread in a separate process. But this is how you define what code it's gonna run.
Okay.
So whatever a threaded function does is what it actually runs after it starts.
Oh, okay. Cool. And I see that.
Yeah, so like
makes sense.
This will run threaded function in a thread.
Okay. Cool. Any tricks you have when you feel like are you the type of person to start writing things down, or do you ask questions? Like what's your kind of because like thinking about this plan, I want to have some like first step if I kind of feel really stuck. Like, do you have any suggestions to break that inertia?
I mean, you're definitely free to ask questions. I would just suggest that the questions be specific. So telling me that you're stuck, right? That's like, okay, it doesn't really tell me much. But if you're like telling me that you need to figure out how to make a thread, then I can immediately help you with that, right? So if you're feeling stuck, just sort of identify what it is that you're stuck on.
Yeah.
And that's the information that you want to share and you want to get help on.
Right. Yeah, and I think one thing I messed up was I didn't want my interviewer to think that I kind of didn't know how to instantiate a thread, and I was rushing to kind of figure that out. And I've made that mistake before, and I guess I'm just learning it again, that it's just better to say, okay, this is something I'm trying to figure out, rather than
exactly. Never. It's rare to share too much information with your interviewer. Like, you can totally say, "Oh, I am not familiar with how to make a thread. I'm going to look it up." Like, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Perfect. Let's see. I guess there's not much time left. Is there anything that I could do to make this more, or like any, yeah, I think now that I'm more comfortable with the threaded function, it makes sense, like the direction where this was going a lot more.
Yeah, so early on I was taking notes as you were walking through, and let's see, so oh wow, did that That looks horrible. I guess new lines don't copy over. Well, but I guess you can read like through the dashes. But
Yeah.
yeah, basically I was remember that it's not when someone's interviewing you, it's not just about how you solving the problem, it's about how you do it. So a lot of my
Right.
feedback was on if you're taking a remote interview, then be sure that you're walking your interviewer through what you're thinking, um, and then just practice breaking down problems, I would say.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I'm not upset about this interview because I'd rather have this kind of experience than like an easy interview. So this was really good for me.
Yeah, no, and I totally commend you for practicing this way. I think it's a great way to prepare.
Mhm. Cool. Cool. Any other feedback?
No, again, just keep practicing. I think you're on the right path.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for yeah, cool.
Yeah, my pleasure. Totally my pleasure to do this. Good luck on your further practice interviews.
All right. Yeah, and thanks again for the patience and I think I'll know what to do next time, or I have a little bit more of I'll have this experience in my belt, so that was good.
Sounds great. Hope to hear of your success
All right.
stories. All right, take
All
care.
right. Likewise.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.